Hello and welcome back to Reimagining Cyber. My name is Ben, and in this episode we're going to take a fresh look at something we've talked about before, but from a new angle. With me is Rob Aragao, Chief Security Strategist at OpenText. So what's on the agenda today?
In the past, we've obviously had conversations that are related to AI and its impact on cybersecurity. We've had many guests come on and cover that topic over the past couple of years, of course. And just wanted to kind of get a little bit more of a refresher at this point in time around AI and AI governance specifically, and as it attributes to support an organization, but more specifically, of course, the CISO role. And recently there was a survey that I had seen where just under 25% or so of the CISOs that were part of that survey believe that basically their organizations do have a strong AI risk kind of value framework put in place, which is good, right? Yes, the percentage is a bit low, but we're still definitely early in the process of understanding some of these areas of how we translate the value where AI drives capability and operational efficiency, for example, for many organizations. There's a lot of going on as it relates to, of course, regulatory compliance efforts. And you do see more, as we've discussed in the past, also relative to the EU, and such as the EU AI Act, the regulatory frameworks out there, such as DORA is another example. So, some things out there to help kind of provide some guidance, if you will, around AI governance.
So fewer than 1 in 4 CISOs feel that their companies have a solid AI risk frameworks, but it is early days, as you've said. Moving this on, how can you help your organization use AI governance to achieve key goals?
There's several different areas that we've really seen recently. And so those areas really tie back into how you're driving more of a strategic positioning to help guide your board relative to AI and AI risks. Again, from that security framework perspective, you could show work that's being done around model performance, bias metrics, compliance status, as an example, kind of mapping back in again some of those areas. And then you can also show opportunities where the security part of the organization, the security teams, are collaborating effectively with product development. Right? We've seen a lot of good, strong working relationship as it relates to security elements of product development groups. But now, of course, AI-powered capabilities coming into play, right? The customer features that you're trying to drive that to get to market faster, to get more, again, kind of attached from customers as part of building out your different products and services capabilities. Having security part of those conversations truly does show, again, that strong partnership as we're really early still in AI overall and the governance aspects of it all. It also helps drive, of course, the budgetary justification requirements that you're going to have in front of you. So how do you actually measure the return on investment? What data do you have to support that? What are some of the metrics that you can tie in and support those funding requests you have for security specific initiatives? Again, always connecting back to business enablers and ultimately, obviously, the business outcomes you're trying to drive at.
Okay, then let's talk risk management, an area that continues to evolve and develop as we enter the era of AI. Rob, talk to me about automated threat detection.
So, AI models are out there monitoring, for example, the network traffic patterns and helping to flag anomalous activities that are seen out there that typically, it would take an analyst, a human analyst, quite a long time to be able to identify that. So some of that automation and the efficiency gain relative to that particular kind of use case is absolutely helping in structuring and strengthening your risk management capability. We see things within supply chain security, right? So governance frameworks, helping to provide model cards, training data provenance. I mean, you have sorts of different elements tie back in around testing principles as well that come into even part of procurement approval processes now. And we're seeing some early adopter organizations. The data poisoning concern is again, still very much out there. So having the ability to provide monitoring and detection principles on training data and understanding where the training data may have been compromised and being able to trigger and model out some of the retraining protocols that you require to help reduce and ultimately avoid data poisoning is critically important.
So that's automated threat detection. What about operational efficiency?
So the efficiency gains relative to maybe compliance automation, and helping you provide better ways to run the audits, have the audit trails, track any sort of changes that are occurring, mapping them back into obviously the regulatory reports that you require within your given organization and given vertical. That's definitely a key area that we're seeing some good, strong traction.
Moving on then, and how is AI, especially agentic AI, changing the way that security teams handle incident response?
And you're hearing a lot about agentic AI and how that can help automatically contain security threats. It can put in place automated firewall rule changes if you want. So again, a lot of that is up to you, right? And the risk appetite that your organization is willing to take on for some of those automation capabilities, in actioning, if you will, elements, but on being able to provide automation around better efficiency gains on detection, and again, driving and up leveling your own people resources. In essence, sometimes in the SOC at this point in time, skipping tier one, if not tier two overall, that's a great outcome, right? That allows the human to be able to level up again their game, focus on higher areas of concern for an organization, and allow kind of the agentic AI capabilities that are now in the market to take over for that piece of the equation.
And risk assessments is another area that we've seen gain in efficiency.
So being able to go through and analyze code, understand exactly where that software defect may be or software vulnerability may be at the time that the developer is actually coding, allowing them to understand exactly what the issue is and allowing them to take the action themselves to properly correct that code and streamline that process. And again, we all win in that case, right? Security becomes more of a governance role in that particular type of scenario. But again, we're able to allow the developers to streamline their processes, move very effectively while securely coding and security coming over the top just for, again, proper analysis reporting and in essence, checking the box of governance that there's confidence within the security of that code that's going out into production.
Rob, trust is so important. It's another core area, especially as it relates to AI and AI governance.
So how are you able to explain your implementation of AI, right? Especially as it relates to customer-facing AI decisioning, if you will. Think about a loan approval process, an insurance claim, right, that a consumer is going through, inputting, and rolling through, and then decisions are being made, again, from an AI perspective on the information that's been inputted. And do you have the supporting explainability relative to the decision criteria that drove the outcome or the response? Right? Do you have the other ability around trust to drive and factor in bias monitoring? And especially a good example of that you would see is relative to the HR function within your organization. Right? Are they able to go through and do regular assessments and understand and correct, what is happening relative to hiring recommendations and ultimately helping to prevent any sort of legal or reputational damage?
Tell me then, how does this all link into perhaps the most important thing, gaining that competitive advantage?
We've been talking about this actually around efficiency gains, right? So faster innovation, allowing you to get to market faster, driving new revenue streams. That's a great competitive advantage. The trust principle we just discussed, absolutely a competitive advantage, right? Consumers need to ensure that there's confidence within what you're doing with their data, and there's confidence in kind of the interaction they're having with different aspects of your business. It could be call centers and so on that are AI driven at kind of first levels at this point in time. The other competitive advantage is also, organizations are able to align themselves with different AI compliance requirements, right? So again, I mentioned earlier within the EU market, for example.
And ultimately, a lot of these things at this point kind of frame themselves around efficiency and optimization gains.
So some of the, again, areas just to kind of round this out are focused within early stages around, again, the SOC, the Security Operations Center, right? And how we're able to drive AI effectively, really to almost at this point take over, in many cases, the level one tier within the SOC. Vulnerability management, so the prioritization of the security issues or patches that are to be identified, CVEs that are being identified out there. So again, streamlining that to be much more effective and allowing it to be much poignant on Again, what it's identifying and allowing the interaction of human to be able to obviously resolve those issues. And even in identity management, right? The detection of some of the maybe unusual access patterns that we're seeing out there. Changes to permissions is another example. Reducing the manual identity review aspect of going through and running, attestations, for example. So streamlining that, much more effective.
Rob, we are coming to the end of the episode now. How would you sum up the AI cybersecurity situation? It's a big question.
So I think, in the end for today, what I wanted to just kind of get out there is we're definitely seeing a lot of quick movement within the realm of AI as it relates to cybersecurity. A lot of it absolutely does get driven by proper AI governance. As I opened it up with, only maybe about 25% or so of the CISO population that was surveyed in the report that had seen out there were talking about saying that there's some sort of relative good AI governance frameworks that they've modeled into their operational cadences and effectiveness on measuring cyber aspects, which is great. We just need to see more of that. We need to see more maturation of that, sharing of how you're doing it. And then these are some of the outcomes, as I was just related to, of what organizationally you're going to be able to get out of it.
Rob, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode, putting the spotlight back on AI, but also specifically on the really positive outcomes that we're starting to see take shape in the marketplace. Do remember to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts, and if you enjoy what you hear, why not leave us a review as well? Reimagining Cyber will be back next Wednesday. Until then, goodbye.